Thanks, Mukta, for joining. Was looking for somebody I could talk to because I've always struggled with being vulnerable, which is funny because the first few pieces I've written, like back in the 90s and the 2000s, have been all reflections of my personal life and observations of more personal things, and then somehow work became everything. And I started writing about leadership, and so I had this whole blogging sort of journey, which from all these platforms, and I have a feeling you went through the same thing. I'm really not satisfied with my writing because I'm not writing what I really want to write, what really gives me satisfaction, which is memoir.
Funny you're saying that because memoirs not my. I mean, it's not what I've always written, frankly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an academic, or at least a quasi academic. So, I again do a lot of writing in my professional work. And
Yeah.
the WordPress stuff, I think I blogged a lot between 2012 and 2015, maybe. And then I sort of tapered off on it.
Yeah.
And even there a lot of the stuff was not personal per se. Yeah, there were anecdotes or reflections on, but very outward facing, in the sense of like what you're seeing in the world around you, and more op-ed kind of tonality rather than memoir. But I think COVID sort of didn't. I think it gave me a lot of time to think, and a lot of some personal experiences which brought me into therapy. So not something I had done before in life, and I think this whole inward journey of connecting the outside with the inside was going on. Then at some point of time, it started coming out. And in fact, when I even yesterday, I was thinking I need to redo the introduction to my Substack, because I introduce myself as an urbanist and, someone who wants to write about cities and, that sort of stuff. But all I've written in it is memoirs. So
And Rambling in the City was really meant for that, right? Maybe that's
yeah,
the title came from talking about the
yeah,
city and the urban,
yeah.
developments there.
That's my professional life,
Yeah.
and Rambling in the City was sort of supposed to be a informal take on, or rather a less serious or less technical take on my professional life. But it turned out that I was rambling about something entirely different eventually on my Substack.
Yeah. For me, I've always wanted to, but getting personal itself is so hard for me because I'm not one of those people who easily are vulnerable.
Vulnerability and authenticity both can be a struggle, because you can be authentic to yourself when you're speaking to yourself, but the minute you start speaking to someone else, even if it's someone very close to you, I think we're sort of conditioned to perform a little. So already you start filtering and start thinking about what's the best way I can get across to this particular person. So for me, I think at some point of time, I took Natasha Badwar's memoir writing workshop, and I was part of that cohort about a year and a half ago for the first time. And I had been writing in my own sort of for myself, in terms of a journaling kind of a diary kind of an essay. And I've done this since I was a teenager, in spurts, sort of diarying and writing, being honest to myself at least. And I knew that I could do a lot of good writing, as in I could express myself very clearly when I was writing like that, in that vein. But I think I didn't have the guts to put it out there initially. And in that workshop, I realized that actually there are a lot of people who have this sort of an inhibition, and once you overcome it, it opens a whole new world, and it brings you a lot of friends and a community. And I think that's what we were all looking for, I think, coming out of COVID, that sense of, finding a community, feeling safe among, belonging. So for me, I think memoir writing became more about finding other people who resonated with this kind of voice and this kind of honesty and authenticity.
Journaling is very personal. Nobody's seeing this. Maybe you personally,
Yeah.
my wife would see it. But then when I put it out there, it's for people to judge. I don't know if that's something that they teach you in the class as to how to deal with that whole, being public with your personal thoughts,
No,
to be
I don't.
judged.
I mean, the class is not really about skills in that sense. It's just about, I think, learning through imitation or learning through inspiration, rather. Like others are doing, we're sharing bits and pieces of what we write in class, and then you hear you hear validation of what you're sharing, and then you think, it's not as unique to me, this experience, as I thought it was. It
Yeah.
seems to be resonating with a lot more people. And even though the incidents may vary and the nuances may vary, the
Yeah.
underlying emotion seems to connect. A.
Yeah.
B, that sometimes you hear somebody express something in far clearer terms. I mean, you have an aha moment when you hear or read someone else's words,
Yeah.
and it unlocks something that you were struggling to express to yourself. So you also get this sudden realization that writing this is actually of value to somebody, in the sense that you may be helping somebody unlock or express something that's locked inside them. So in that
Yeah.
sense, we're helping each other out in a strange way, and it's a little bit of a hit and miss because you're just throwing an arrow
Yeah.
into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
But it definitely I got an immediate validation in the class. So it wasn't about the skill, but
Yeah.
or even about the this is how you go and put your writing out there, but just about, hey, it's okay. What are you going to lose by putting it out there? And I
Yeah.
have to say, not everything I write finds my way to the Substack. There are a lot of pieces that I feel are not
Yeah.
ready, they're too raw, or they will hurt somebody because, I'm writing about people who will recognize themselves in those pieces, and
Yeah.
I don't really want to do that. So there are those filters, of course, that you put in.
Completely agree with you about how people read your piece and then have this whole reaction you never expected, that it resonated so much with them. Like I just wrote Not Father, which
Correct.
I really got a lot of satisfaction out of that in the last 2 days. Just people responding to it.
And that sort of comes back to the community and conversations thing, right? I mean, I think we live in a uh, inauthentic world, in the sense
Yeah.
that the kind of social media technology that we seem to have developed and seem to find ourselves sort of participating in,
Yeah.
um it builds on I mean, it makes it very easy for people to be inauthentic, and they may not be doing it deliberately, but there
Yeah.
is a lot of positioning and sort of positing and putting the best sides of ourselves forward that we end up doing if we are looking at platforms like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And I think during COVID, in my own family, we had a lot of struggles with mental health. I had teenage children who were struggling. I mean, I saw very closely what adolescents are going through, how the digital world is sort of messing them up, and the interactions between the digital world and the real world, entry back into the real world post COVID lockdowns, how difficult they were for them, but also for us, feeling
Yeah.
social exhaustion. For somebody like me who was a very social person, I became somebody who was, you know, finding it hard to keep up and come back into the real world. So I think I started thinking a lot about this dissonance and this sort of how we had become people who were constantly presenting ourselves or thinking a lot about how we are presenting ourselves in the world because of the kinds of social media we found ourselves in. And even how work and work related sort of publicity or personal branding had become a big part of work, the workspace, which was never a thing before. You did work, you put it out there, somebody read it, somebody didn't read it, and then you went on. But I work in the development sector and in public policy, and suddenly even funding or even what projects you got became about what impact you were having, what kind of storytelling you could do, what kind of messaging you could do. So I
Yeah.
think this writing memoir became a sort of a reaction to all of that, that
Yeah.
I really don't want to go. I want to run in the opposite direction and see what that does.
Yeah. In India, people are scared to write personal stuff because the HR folks are looking at what you're writing online. And I'm like, what?
That too.
When I was in Bangalore, this was not a thing. I mean, I was still writing, but then I'm posting. Nobody really cared. But now there are like people finding out what are you saying out there? Like, how does that affect your company image? Which is sad in a way, right? Because
But social media vetting has become a normal part of your reference check now.
mm,
So it's become self-censorship has become second nature. We don't even realize when we are self-censoring. So
yeah,
writing memoir, I think, was for me was a very deliberate sort of a very visceral way of saying, I don't want to become this person who's always second guessing myself. I don't want to
Yeah.
be that person. So
Yeah.
can I preserve a little part of me which lives on this Substack in a purer, in a less convoluted, performative form? Though I
Yeah.
have to say, even memoir can be performative. It's not, I mean, you try to be authentic, but you are performative in the sense that you pick certain things and omit other things. And you
Yeah.
are obviously sensitive to how you're coming across. You don't want to be harsh to somebody. You don't, I mean, so all those, there are those elements of self censorship. And it's become such strong parts of our learned behavior and the code, social code, that, we just find ourselves doing this without even thinking we're doing it. So it has, I mean, one has to make a lot of effort, I think, to write genuinely, authentically. And I don't want to, I'm not writing to shock anybody either, right? I'm just
Yeah.
writing what, and that's why I think, and I think we spoke about this on our text or exchange. I think memory becomes a really good device in that
Yeah.
sense, because you have to anchor it to something, right? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
anchor it to? It's dangerous to anchor it to political ideology, because
Yeah.
like you say, the
It
Substack
is.
is, I mean, your social media is being trawled by everybody to get a pre-impression of who you are.
Yeah.
So you don't want to anchor it to work necessarily, because this is a space that is separate from your work. So
Yeah.
then you try and anchor it to something like memory, which has a factual, at least, underpinning. And then you
Yeah.
build on that factual underpinning, or at least what you remember of what happened.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Because my issue with memory is my memory is fading so fast. Like, I don't know. If I don't write this down now, like I'm going to lose it. It's important for us. Like I've been asking my relatives in India to scan all these old photographs and albums in a way to capture not only my memories, but my parents' memories, right? Where they are
Yeah.
still here, and to be able to document that. So that's the other purpose I have with my Substack. Again, how much of it goes public, how much of it is locked down, right? That is still a question I battle every time I write something, is who wants to read this? But yeah, memory is very powerful.
Absolutely. And I mean, I resonate with this question of the visual, but for me, the visual works in two ways. One thing is, of course, going back to old photographs, or, using photographs to recreate in your imagination certain, for me, space, the memory of a space, or what a space felt like, or what you did in that space is
Exactly.
very powerful. So if I think about my childhood and I think about how my room was laid out, then I would immediately, it would unlock memories of sitting at my desk. When I sat at my desk, I did this, or this was in front of me, this was on the right side of me, this was on the left side of me. And then that will unlock something about, oh, remember when so and so friend came and laughed about this. So it's a process. And I feel like when I start writing about it, it actually unlocks, I mean, it's there, but it's sort of, it's like a game. It's nested inside, there are clues. And if you write, then you get the keys to a few more doors, and then you remember more. And sometimes I struggle
Yeah.
with, is this something that really happened, or am I imagining some of this?
Yeah.
But I think I'm okay with that, because the imagining is also based on something that actually happened, in the sense that the
Yeah.
friend may not have said this or said that instead, but the
But
gist of that conversation is more or less correct.
yeah, the emotion comes out, maybe not
Yeah.
the exact words.
Yeah.
You all have really good memory cards, because my wife is exactly like that. She can remember what happened like when she was a baby. I mean,
No, I
I feel like
don't.
I've rewritten my memory card because I have very limited space, that it's overwritten with stuff that I can't even unlock it. I have to go back and do some tech help here.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's like, you reach an age in which your long term memory is better than your short term memory. I think we're all getting there at some point. So I
Yeah.
think this memoir writing is really helping, because, okay, if long term memory is good now, let me write about that
Yeah.
now. Also, I am a parent, and I think what has happened is, as my children have been through adolescence, like I said, since COVID, um, when few things happened which changed my parenting, forced me to change my parenting style from, okay, they have their routine, they're doing whatever they're doing. I'm a working mom, and my job is kind of to lightly supervise their life and not really get into it too much. But COVID locked us all in, like, for a year and some,
Yeah.
more or less, inside a space. And we all became, I mean, I saw a lot more of their life, and I've had to be more of a hands-on parent since then, because the re-entry into normal life after COVID for children was hard. And I think that helped me relive what I found myself thinking, did I struggle with this when I was 14?
Mm.
And then immediately think about the generational difference, the technological differences between what my daughter is going through and what I'm going through, but also the similarities.
Yeah.
Did I also feel this kind of rage? Did I also feel this kind of frustration? Did I
Yeah,
also
that's so
take
cool.
these kind of things casually? Did I also overstress these
Wow.
kinds of relationships? I mean, I was just questioning because I wanted to understand whether her behavior is typical, or whether I mean, I was trying to separate normal from abnormal patterns as a parent. And
Mm.
that actually helped me get back into my adolescent brain a little bit.
Yeah.
And I also, and mom is here, so she knows. I also shot her a lot of questions. Did I do things like this? Did I ask you things like this? And mom would say,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't know what you're asking. Am I
No,
supposed to
that's so cool.
remember all this?
No, but
But yeah.
it's amazing that like three generations, right? You're kind of talking about
Yeah.
shared memories, how each person kind of relives that. It's so
Yeah. And
powerful.
the funniest part of it is that my daughter's best friend found my Substack. And then she started following me. And then she sort of, after this point, started sort of needling my daughter. Why don't you read your mom's stuff, Substack? And that was the funniest part, because, it comes around a full circle, because
I know it's so
they're
hard.
18 now and they're reading this stuff and they're thinking, "Oh, what is she writing?" But it's cool, because a lot of stuff is I'm writing about when I was 6 or when I was 12. And there are these, whatever, 17, 18-year olds trying to, laughing at you. Oh, when you were 6, the world was such a strange place. Oh, you didn't even have phones. Oh, you didn't. So it's, the
Yeah.
conversations can be very banal and can be very deep. So there's a whole range
Yeah.
that you can have as a reaction to what you write.
Yeah, I need to write about dial-up modems. Let's see what people's reaction to it.
I do. I want to write. I remember, so my daughter's doing college applications for undergrad right now. And I was remembering that when I was doing master's college applications, the most frustrating part of that process was the dial up modem. I mean, it would take 3 hours
I
to
know.
upload one file.
But but don't you miss those beeps like from the modem? I mean, I miss it. I somehow miss it. Like, I wish I could just put that as like this kind of noise and the music that will
Ambient,
this. I know, and it
ambient
just
music.
brings you back old memories. Maybe that should be my background when I write personal stories. Like, let the dial-up modem.
I
Um,
think there's a whole nostalgia thing
yeah,
doing the rounds for analog and early internet times,
yeah,
like we're all
absolutely.
like going through
Yeah,
that because
yeah.
things have changed so fast.
One thing you said, getting your family members to even read your Substack or wherever you write, it's so tough, right? I'm like I said earlier, I don't have kids, but then my niece and nephews, I want them to read, for them to know who I am
Yeah.
through my writing, because we are so far away. I'm so far away. I don't get to live in India with them or wherever they are. Right? It's for me as an uncle. I want to share this, and then I send it to them, and they give me the heart emojis and all that on WhatsApp, and I don't even know they're reading it.
I'm at that first level where I'm just happy that my friends are reading it.
Mm.
And I get that feedback loop, a very authentic feedback loop. Like,
That's
I know
important.
when I put out a Substack, if people reach out to me and proactively and say, "Hey, I read your Substack and this is what I liked about it."
Yeah.
Whereas there are some posts which I don't get a reaction on. And I know that people are reading it, but it didn't resonate. So it's giving me my own data points about what works and what doesn't work. I'm still not sure that I want to react to these sets of data points. Like, I want to write
Mm.
about what I want to write about.
Yeah.
And some things will work and some things won't, and that's fine with me at this stage.
Yeah.
Because unlike a lot of Substack writers, Substack is not where I'm making my money from.
Exactly. I was
Not
going to
anywhere
say that.
near.
I was going to say same thing with me. Right? I'm not on Substack for making money, and that is the clear distinction between how you
Yeah.
treat it.
Yeah. But I do use Substack as a place to build my writing skill.
Mm.
I do have aspirations and I am writing stuff outside of Substack, which is in a quasi academic sort of a genre. I mean, I'm trained, I write academic work, but I'm working on a manuscript which is semi academic. And a lot of this writing muscle that I'm developing in Substack, the voice that I'm developing here, I'm very curious to see how that finds its way back into the other writing, because they're two totally polar opposite styles, where one is entirely evidence based, is very steeped in literature and theory, and you're trying to nod to everything that's happened before you. It's all of that. And one is, I'm just writing off the cuff and I'm only writing about me. I'm self-referential entirely. So how does this work? Because people are responding to this authentic me, and this self-referential stuff seems to be okay. But on the other hand, you need to build credibility about what you're writing too. So it's like I'm on two tracks and I don't know whether they're going to meet or not.
Yeah.
And
There's
that's
a
the curiosity.
Yeah, and there's another layer to that, right? Because with AI, on the other side, you will probably use AI to do the research, to do some of the data mining, but then that shouldn't be a habit that you bring along to this, because then your personal stuff can just turn into, reliance on AI a lot.
I'm sort of keeping myself away from the entire AI thing for now. And I work, I use qualitative data, and I do a lot of field research. So my research work is built on narratives that I hear from the field.
Okay, good.
So I'm very wary about using AI, because this is information that people have given me in confidence. So I don't really want to give it
It's
up
good.
to,
Yeah.
I need to protect the privacy of my respondents too.
Yeah.
So AI is very limited in my use for only certain kinds of functions. I'm trying to be very careful
Yeah.
about it. But you're right, in the future, it's going to be harder to separate these strands. So one has to
Yeah.
think about that.
Yeah, because it's so easy to create content right now. And again, I think that's another reason I feel like it's so much more important to write personal stuff, to write from the heart, to be human and be original. And that's what, for me, I think this new Substack is doing. As soon as I published this, not father, yesterday or day before, um, something sparked and I started the next one. I'm halfway through the next one, right? So it sort of kind of connects immediately that it's that muscle that, once you start, I think, activating it, it just helps you write even more. The people that you write about, personally, I mean, do you share it with them ahead of time? Like, if this is about them, do you give them a
Sometimes I
chance to
do.
react? Okay.
Yes, yes. For example, I wrote a post on my visit to Kashmir recently. It wasn't a memoir, but yes, it was definitely travel writing, which I wrote in first person about a set of people I met there. But I did send it to, my friend who had facilitated my visit, because it's a sensitive,
Yeah.
it's a sensitive space. It could be political sensitivities. I didn't want to get things wrong. So sometimes, yes, I do. And I wrote recently about a trip I made to Dehradun and about a friend's house, actually. And it's
Yeah.
so personal, you're writing about somebody's home. So it's just not right to not
Yeah.
give them a chance to.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are a lot of posts. In fact, I recently cleaned my drafts folder and brought my drafts down from 73 to 23.
Okay, good.
I purged it. I was like, all these stupid things, let me throw them out.
And that was all on Substack?
All in Substack. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's some really like things I started, and parts of it had already found its way into some other post.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very interesting how your thoughts live. Sometimes they live in
Yeah.
notes. Sometimes they
Yeah.
live in drafts, and sometimes they live in scraps of paper, in my case, or in scribbles or in
Yeah.
doodles. So
Yeah.
I'm a very disorganized person. And eventually, when things come together, they actually come together from memory. When I'm writing, I don't actually refer to any of these things. But the fact that I had jotted it somewhere or written it somewhere, I guess gets retained somehow in my memory, and then it comes together.
When you look at analog versus digital, I mean, do you find memories pouring more onto pen on paper versus keyboard and screen?
I've been writing for such a long time that the screen, it doesn't
Matter.
make a difference to me. No.
I find it very difficult to put it like pen on paper is difficult for me. The keyboard clicking thing, just that, maybe that's just this.
So that's one of the in the Orca Sky workshop. We
Mm,
are encouraged to write in pen and paper, and I
mm,
think I did discover that the pen on paper had a particular kind of um there was something to it, but we
mm.
are not used to it, so it's a little bit more effort in the beginning. And I so now I alternate a little bit, but frankly, I can't write as fast as I think. I can type as fast as I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably why.
So
Yeah, that's one reason. But I think there's what them probably one is distractions, right? You have all the other distractions. You get to research, and then options are there to kind of go. But pen on paper, I think, also unlocks memories fast. I read somewhere that it kind of connects. There's this some sort of a neural connect to I don't know, to unlock certain memory cells. Maybe my
So,
memory.
I trained as an architect, and one of my neural connect comes through doodling and sketching more than
Mm,
writing. So, pen
mm,
and paper works, but pen and paper works in terms of doodle. So, even in meetings, oftentimes I doodle, and in my doodles, there may be keywords of
mm,
things that are discussed in the meeting, but the full thought is not articulated. But later, when I look at that visual, I can
yeah,
retrace the conversation from what I have taken down. So it's sort of a way of recording which is unique and personal that
yeah,
you figure out. Like all of us have our own ways
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
shorthand, right? So for me, it's a combination of drawing and writing.
yeah,
And it actually makes no sense to anybody else because for the other person, it's just some line work, and they're like, "What the heck is this? It
yeah.
looks very cute. It's very quaint." People will come and say, "Were you really bored in the meeting?" And no, far from it. When I'm most engaged, the doodles
Is
are
when
most complex.
that's interesting. I think my wife is similar in terms of how she might be doing something else, but then she's probably my brother, younger brother too. I mean, they can get all the distractions. Doesn't matter what's happening outside. For me, it's very difficult. If I don't stick to that lane, if I'm distracted, I'm really distracted. I'm on another lane.
For me, the writing is, when the thought comes, if I have identified that central thought, then no distractions matter. Nothing. It doesn't matter whether I'm on a train. It doesn't matter whether I'm in the middle of a coffee shop. And it doesn't matter even if I have another deadline. I will actually push another work related deadline forward to write a Substack
Wow.
post if it needs to be written right now.
So it
It's
demands you to.
coming
It's
now.
demand. Yeah. See, that's good. You have trained yourself, maybe naturally, to listen to that demand, or that, or whatever it is, right? That moment you don't. I have these thoughts when I'm driving, and I have the most profound thoughts to write about when I'm driving, and then
Voice note it.
I'm trying to do that now. um so these voice notes now, it's all AI enabled, that they just, when I read it, it's like already full blown post that is machine generated. But it is important to write it down. Like, I've carried notebooks with me, like seal notebooks. But again, that whole, it's a discipline. It's a discipline issue
Mm.
more than, like, you got to train yourself to also, like, people put a book next to their bed. As soon as they wake up, they write it down. Like, there are so many ways in which you got to tap in that
Yeah,
memory.
I think I also have mental post-its happening here.
Mm,
It's not always that I'm not a disciplined person and not an organized person. Have started putting things in my notes app, and that's usually really good to do when you're on an airplane and you're on airplane mode and there are no distractions, and I can
yeah.
write entire articles on my notes app because there's
Mm.
really literally nothing else to do, especially on domestic flights when there's no film to watch either.
Nice.
so,
Yeah.
but there is also a mental post-it kind of a
Yeah.
process happening, and you sort of just it's more like two finger, okay, there's something going on here, and then
Yeah.
2 days later, okay, this connects to something I thought 3 days before, and it's
Wow.
all happening. They're not very deliberately. It's sort of happening somewhere in the background, and then the day it comes together, it's not that the thought has come to you that day. It's just that it's been building over the last few
Overnight.
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
The clues have been there, and then somehow you've got this binding. You suddenly found a string to bind it together,
Yeah.
the
No,
hook
that's a good.
to hang
Good.
it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that has to come with experience, and I think that's where your experience helps, because you have experience of having, being consistently writing memoirs.
Yeah.
For
And this is also my process in my academic writing. I mean,
mm,
strangely, the process is similar.
mm,
Because even in my academic writing, the subjects I write about, I care about deeply.
mm.
It's
Got it.
not just some random numbers and it's my job, and so, oh my god, I have to do this. It's really not that. It's stuff that I really care deeply about. I'm just, the methodology there is research and more serious writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the story that I want to tell is still very much an emotional,
Yeah.
something that appeals to me emotionally. So I
Yeah.
think that's where the muscle has come from, of saying
Yeah.
that I need to write something very deep and serious, but I also need to be able to make this make sense to people who
Yeah.
have not been to my field with me and have not been on this journey of asking this question for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I have to simplify it. So that's,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of that
Yeah.
comes in here. But memoir is a whole different thing, I think. Here, you just find yourself getting into spaces where you never thought you'd be.
Yeah. It's you know, with my new Substack, which is Call Me Sri, right? Everything is crafted around trying to get deeper with my thoughts. Um, and some of it, right, uh, my wife, after reading it, said, I'm learning a lot more about you through this, because there's so much that I guess I don't share, right? I mean, and I don't know if it's a man thing, and maybe many men find it difficult to share and be vulnerable, and that is itself is a process for me right now, is to reveal myself, I guess, in terms of what my thoughts are, or what my experience has been, what I interpreted out of some of those moments back in time, without, again, I'm very careful about not hurting anybody, because
Hmm.
I don't, because there are biases, there are concerns, there are there's trauma to some extent when you unlock certain memories. So it is also very important for me that I don't preach, I don't I'm not advising anybody about anything, and again, I don't want it to sound like that. I'm just sharing. So it's very tough for me to craft it in a way that it is just reflective. It's an observation. It's my observation. It's all me. It's not a general statement. It's not about. So that's very tough for me, because again, no
I
matter how
don't
much you say,
I don't think that much.
okay, yeah,
I don't go through
maybe
this entire whole. I
I'm
mean,
overanalyzing this.
I won't say I won't go through it at all, but I really stop myself from going into the rabbit hole of thinking about how my piece will come across and what lines I'm crossing and blah blah. First of all, I don't write about terribly controversial things, so
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah,
But even if I am, I really stop myself short of going now, because I feel like if I start doing that, I just won't hit the publish button. And the whole idea is to get your stuff out there. And like I said, I mean, there's nothing that I've been through that somebody else hasn't. And I think that's what Substack has really given me as a
yeah,
space. When I first came here, and it was a space. Now, of course, a lot of folks are coming to Substack, I think, for different reasons. But when I joined, it was still mainly a platform for writers.
yeah.
And I found a lot of people telling very difficult personal stories
Mm,
on Substack. And I was like, how are they doing this?
yeah,
And I realized, if you start thinking about how your difficult story is going to come across and start thinking so much about it, then you'll never get it out there. But when I'm reading this person's writing, I'm gaining some strength from it.
mm,
I'm thinking, okay, first, hey, it's so liberating to be able to tell your story. Second, it's giving a lot of people strength.
yeah,
Third, it's adding to the diversity of perception. I mean, like, my life is this, but there are so many different ways to live your life. And I think we're all living in bubbles and echo chambers. So it's very important to be able to write in a way that is authentic, because it gives other people a way to live somebody else's life, or at least get a glimpse into somebody else's life.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So it's for me, it's like a parallel to fiction, except that, and it also is because I couldn't read as much fiction as I did before, because my
Yeah.
work reading was taking up so much of my reading time.
Mm.
And I think now memoir become is like reading memoir has become my next favorite thing, because it's better than fiction. This
It
is
is
actually
actually,
happening to somebody.
yeah. I never used to read I never used to read much anyway. That was the other thing. My wife is an avid reader, so there are like books all around the house, right? She grew up reading. And But I never used to even read, like I would read self-help books, and these are the kind of things that I gravitate towards, because everything was about, how can I improve myself? How can I be better productive at work, and or leadership stuff. And again, it was all about career and all that.
Hmm.
But then, December, I think, is when picked up a book that she's had it in the house for a long time. It's Jhumpa Lahiri's Unaccustomed Earth.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Another
It's
one. Yeah.
so good, these short stories. I've started gravitating more towards these kind of books, because there's so much to learn from how they write from
I think there's
in some of
another
that.
thing that's happening here. I think we are all feeling a sense of fatigue with the kind of productivity culture that we've all
Mm,
grown up with. At least I
yeah.
don't know whether you resonate, but in India, if you've grown up middle class and you've been through this economic boom that we've been through, and you've sort of ridden that wave, that's my generation, rode that wave, became relatively
Mm,
successful or gained a certain kind of self-respect and a certain kind of confidence. But you've done this at the cost of buying into this efficiency and culture of
mm,
success. Hard work gets success. You have to keep working hard because that's the only way to get ahead in life.
yeah.
And I think it's just at one point you realize all good. I mean, I'm glad I did all of this, but there's something missing.
Yeah. It
And
fatigued
that
you out.
comes
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, you have fatigue, and you feel like there are the simpler, the more enjoyable things in life that you feel you've earned the right to now dig back into those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of the nostalgia for you know pre-digital times also comes from for people my age.
Yeah.
You feel that I can no longer be productive without my output having greater meaning than what it already has, in the
Mm,
sense that I don't want to do something just because it is part and parcel of doing a job and earning a salary. It has
yeah.
to mean more than that.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I need to know who I am. After doing 25, 30 years of this grind, who am I? How can I give my work better meaning if I don't know who I am?
Yeah. Because you lose yourself, a sense of self,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Over this. And I was exactly like that. Like when I was working in India, and after engineering, I grew up in the Middle East. So I didn't have a lot of growing up in India, but then I did my engineering in Bangalore, and then got a job. But then very quickly I moved to the US, and I was getting into that grind because it was nonstop. That period in time when I got out of college, or even during college, to when I moved to the US, I didn't write. I can't remember writing anything, and I used to write so much before that, uh,
Mm.
before even college, right? Um, but here you get that. It was when I moved here that I re-engaged myself in that manner to kind of start writing again. But it's so true. I mean, you get into that grind, you lose, you're running. It's almost like a rat race, right? So you're trying to get somewhere, and then once you get there, you realize you've lost yourself. You've left yourself back
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And
A version of you is
writing
left.
writing memoir is sort of almost a way of getting reconnected with yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
when other people write what you write, that's what they get. They get the sense, they get a sense of the satisfaction that you are feeling in writing that.
Yeah, yeah,
Or whatever the underlying emotion is, whether it's grief, whether it's catharsis, whatever it is. So they're taking away the net emotion rather than the details of what you've actually written. And I think that's really the purpose, to be
yeah,
able to connect with that underlying emotion through words.
yeah,
Which and we do that through film. There's now we're all watching OTT and we're getting that. But a lot of the times the stories that are being told don't resonate with our lives because they're about they're written by somebody for a completely different purpose,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
have to scroll through a lot of different shows to find something that actually resonates with you. So
yeah,
for me, like memoir, I feel like when I write for a whole generation of a certain kind of Indian that grew up in a certain kind of
yeah,
urban milieu, to service
yeah.
class parents, and went through a certain journey of aspiration building and all of it. And now we are at a point where we can give back, and one way of giving back is just to take stock.
I'm very inspired. to continue on this because like I said, I was still trying to figure out where this is going. Um, should I have a cadence? Which I think it doesn't work that way, right? It just whatever comes out, let it just get out there in the public. Uh, but I also might be overanalyzing, which is the other thing I think you made me realize is I'm overanalyzing this. Let's just write and then put it out there. One of the things I started doing along with this new Substack is, I think in December or whenever I started this, I started journaling every day. So that is just another way of me trying to hone those skills. It's again when I journal again on the laptop, but it's an offline app called Day One that I just pour out no corrections, nothing. It's just every day's reflection. That is also helping me. I feel like because I'm trying to hone the skill of continuously tapping into those memories, and as soon as the memory comes, like you said, I have to figure out how to write it down, how to capture it. I think those are the takeaways I have. Is like just to as I embark on this new.
For me, I think the triggers are like like pain, grief. I mean, there are some extreme experiences that have acted as triggers to write memoir.
Mm,
It's not just I remembered something. Hey, let me write about it. No, I mean there is a deeper
yeah,
emotion, something that you're really trying to dig out of yourself.
yeah,
That and then when you write it, you decide, oh, is this something I can put on my Substack or not? Oftentimes, yes, I'm also writing in a personal space first, and then some part of it feels like, okay, this is actually something that I can share. Other times, it's I already know that this is a Substack. I already know that this is something I want to put out. So it's very
yeah,
organic in that sense. And I've not been as experimental as I would like to be in the future because I remember some things, and like you said before, my memory of that time is patchy. Remembered walking somewhere, I remembered some architecture, but I didn't remember the conversations. I had to make
yeah,
up that conversation from what I approximately
yeah,
remembered, right?
yeah. I'm going to struggle with the same thing because I can't remember anything. Like for me, my memories are not really that great. I have to ask people what people think of you and what you think of yourself, what you think they think of you is all so different, right? And sometimes it's good to kind of get that perspective of that moment or that experience of what I did or whatever it is, right? Whether you remember it or not, whether that's how you would interpret it or not, but others' interpretation also is important to capture. I think I don't know, you know.
No, I mean I'm totally unfiltered. I mean it's I think a gift.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just who I am, I think, or it's just I find it easy to be like this.
yeah.
I'm not thinking so much. I'm not thinking what people are thinking of me, what I'm thinking of myself. It doesn't matter. When I want to write, I'm just writing. And then before I can think, it's out there. I've already hit the publish button.
You know, funny thing is, I'm like that outside. Like people have this, I will say things out and I don't care about anything. That is the persona I've built outside. No fear, nothing. And they're scared about what I think because I will tell them what I think. And usually frank and unfiltered and don't mince words. But with writing, when I'm trying to reflect on this, I am being so careful, and it is so strange. It is not the personality I'm outside. So I don't know. There is that whole conflict there too. That just realizing that itself is it's like a big thing for me.
Absolutely. And finding a way to overcome that.
Yeah,
I have to say this wasn't like it just didn't happen. It took its own time, and
yeah,
like when I first started writing my blog, it would take me an hour or 2 hours to compose something very short, and then it's only
yeah,
after the muscle developed that you were able to just
yeah,
belt
yeah.
something out in 15-20 minutes and be okay. It would be reasonably okay. You don't have to do a lot of polishing in it. So it's about that writing muscle and that developing a tone and a voice that you are comfortable with. I really don't care about what other people are thinking most of the time.
The other funny thing is, after I've written like two, three pieces, the first one I wrote was guarded grief. It was, how I process grief um, in that moment. And then the second one was, again, little dark, right? It's all going towards the darker side. And I have this friend of mine who keeps asking me every now and then, are you okay? Are you happy? So I'm like, So they are thinking of me, but I don't know if it is going in the whole other direction of they worry about me. They might be having this discussion. Okay, we need an intervention of sorts. This guy's going off. That is
Yeah, no, that happens too. That does happen.
whatever gets attention is fine, right? The whole point is that. But yeah, this is great. I want to be respectful of your time. But thank you so much for taking this time and talking about your process and a lot of takeaways for me. And all those folks who've joined. Thank you.
I think it's when people ask you questions that you even, articulate some of these ideas to yourself. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
always useful to talk to someone who's struggling with the same things or similar things
yeah.
and, uh, coming at it from their own perspective. So this was really great. And thank you for everyone who's joined. I know there's a lot of comments.
Larry's question was, did the memo class that you took with Natasha, did that
Mm.
help you reach more people? Did more people read your memoir? Was one question.
Yeah, so I think it became a community and we all read each other now. And Ochre Sky also puts out a weekly sort of a collection of
Mm.
story of
Yes, yes.
memoir essays. So that has quite a bit of reach. So yes, definitely got me new readers.
Mm.
Nothing viral, but more than what was before,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm glad. I'm glad this had this much of comments. I don't think I've seen that before. So it's good.
That means your live is growing in its
That means I've got the right guest on this. So all right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Good night.
Thank you so much. Bye.